So this last thing I want to show you is combining some of the functions and statements that we had just been talking about. So I showed you some if statements when we just wrote one. We also walked through some of your basic functions like your average functions, your max, and your sum functions. Now I want to show you how you can combine those two things to make a new statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to use something called the sum if statement that will add up numbers if they meet a criteria. So in this case, what we're going to do in this column, we have a column called bench points. And what I want to do in this column is, and since we're in column C, I want to add up the number of bench points that were scored by the bench players for game 1. Okay, and then we're going to copy that formula so it does the same thing for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we want to add up the total number of points our bench players scored. So we're going to use the sum if statement to do that. So we're going to do sum if, and you'll see that the formula comes up for us right here. So I'm going to click on it, and then again, as we have seen in our previous statements, we get our little guide here that we can follow. So the first thing it's going to ask us for is the range. What is the range of our criteria? Where can that be found? So the range for our criteria is going to be located right here in B. So it's going to be B2 through B14. We're going to select that and select our comma. And the next item that it's asking for is our criteria. When we look in this range, what exactly are we looking for? In this case, we're looking for bench. We say we're looking for bench points. So we're looking for everyone here that is labeled as bench. So I'm going to, in quotation marks, type bench right here, and then enter my last comma, and you see that the range is moving over here with me to let me know that I'm on the right track. Last thing it's looking for is once we look in this column and we find bench, what data are we adding up? And the data we're adding up is in column C. It is C2 through C14. We can select that, and we can put in our last parentheses, and that's the end of our statement. When I hit enter, it gives us our number there. See, 23 bench points were scored here. Now I can take this and I can copy this formula over to the last few games, and that will give me the total bench points for each one of these. But there is something I need to add to it just to make it work, and the last thing I need to add is something called an anchor. As you've seen before, when we pulled formulas and copied them down, all of the columns and the rows changed as we drag that formula down. Well, there are certain instances where you don't want that to copy. You want certain cells and columns to stay put as you drag that formula over. So this is going to be an example of that. This is going to be an example of when we don't want the data to change. So all we have to do is put $ next to the column label and the row labels to indicate these are the items we don't want to change. So in this case, the thing that we don't want to change is the items that we highlighted in column B. You'll see here, for example, if I copy this over, I'm going to copy this over just to show you what would happen if I do it. You'll see all these say 0. Well, the reason why is if I go to this one for game 2, you'll see that it's now looking for bench points in C2 through C14. And if I go to the next one, you'll see now it's looking for the bench players in column D. And we don't want that. We want all of them to be looking in column B. So the way we can do that is we'll put the $ in front here. And put a $ in front of the letter and the number indicating I want both the column and the row to stay put when I copy it over. And then when I hit enter, nothing changes for this. And now when I drag this over, you'll see that the columns for this particular range, range B2 through B14 for each item stays put. So that's the anchor, and that's going to be a very important thing in certain instances whenever you're using spreadsheets. So that's another advanced formula, and the anchor key is a very important thing that you're going to want to use in functions. So what we have to finish this off is I have another spreadsheet at the bottom. We just did Golden State. I have one for Cleveland, and what I'm going to ask you to do is try to replicate what we did with Golden State with the Cleveland sheet. Now, you don't have to do everything that we're going to do. I didn't put everything on there for you to change, but there are certain pieces of information that you're going to see, particularly the stuff at the bottom, that I'm going to ask you guys to see if you guys can do that and make the spreadsheet kind of like we did here with Golden State. So good luck with that. And you'll have this information. Use these videos as your guide as you're trying to work through managing Cleveland's worksheet.